The Family at Red Roofs by Enid Blythe. Chapter 2. Moving In. Molly Jackson was in the 6th and highest form at her school. She was a popular, hard-working and responsible girl, and she was glad that she was soon going to start her training as a teacher. Her school had a fine kindergarten for the little ones and an excellent training department attached to it. "I shall start being a student in September," Molly told herself in glee. "I shall be 17 by then, half grown up. The KG children will call me Miss Jackson. I shall feel quite important." Some of the other girls in her form were leaving that term to take up various kinds of work. One or two were going to train as hospital nurses. Some were going into offices. Others were going on to college. "What are you going to do, Prudence?" asked Molly. "Have you made up your mind yet? Surely you're not going to stay at home and do nothing." "Well, there isn't any need for me to take a job," said Prudence. "I don't see why I should. I should enjoy being at home and going to parties and plays and lazing about and reading. I can understand you don't want to do that, living in that poky house of yours in that dirty street. I'd want to get out of it and have a job as quickly as possible if I lived there. I can't think why your people don't move." Molly went red. Prudence had a fine big house with a tennis court and a pretty pond. She had a lovely bedroom all to herself with blue wallpaper, blue cushions on her chairs, and a blue eiderdown. She always had pretty dresses and smart coats, and she was nice to look at. Why did she always have to spoil things so by talking in that snobbish manner? "Well, if you want to know, we are moving," said Molly rather snappily. "After all, we are a bigger family than you and cost more to bring up, so money isn't so plentiful. But we are moving at last into Red Roofs, that dear little house up on the hillside, the other end of the town." Prudence looked at Molly in surprise. "That's quite near us," she said. "I've always thought it was such a pretty house. Dear me, you are going up in the world." John Rennie heard the last part of the conversation and came up. She lived in the same part of the town as the Jacksons and was a plain and homely girl, kind and dependable, with a delicate mother to fuss around. She was leaving that term to go into an office. "Oh, I wish you weren't moving so far away," she said dolefully. "I was hoping we'd still be near enough to see something of one another after I've left Molly. It will be horrid to leave school, I think. All the familiar routine we know, the fun and games and friendships. I'm not looking forward to it at all." You're such an old stick in the mud," said Prudence. "Fancy wanting to stay on at school. A school like this, anyway. I never did like this school. I always wanted my people to send me away to a decent boarding school. But Daddy doesn't believe in them, so I had to come here. And I can tell you, I'm jolly glad to be leaving." "There's one thing you didn't learn at school which most of us have learned," said John in her straightforward way, "and that's loyalty. You're always talking against your people or your school or your friends or something." "I am not," cried Prudence, and she glared at John. "How dare you talk like that, you plain common thing?" John laughed and walked away. She had no time for Prudence, with her airs and graces, her little sneers and jibes. She thought it a great pity that the girl was not going to a job. Maybe she would have learned what it was to work then and get down to things. She had never bothered to use what brains she had at school.